Hey church fam, happy Sabbath. Have you ever thought you were right about something, but you ended up being completely wrong? I'll admit, this happens to me more times than not. I have found myself in very interesting and honestly embarrassing situations because I thought I was right and I was so confident thinking that I was right, when in actuality, I was completely wrong. Now, there was a time when I was visiting a church for their Friday Vespers, and they were doing a Bible quiz on the timeline of Jesus' death and his resurrection. Now, being a pastor, when we were being put into groups, a lot of them wanted to be partnered up with me, thinking that, if we have a pastor in our group, then we'll answer this quiz super easily. So, I also felt that way. I confidently went through the questions with my group, and there was one question that I was almost 100% certain I knew the answer to. And the question was, what happened after Jesus gave up his spirit on the cross? Immediately, I thought of Matthew 27:51, and it says that the curtain in the temple was torn into two. Now, for some reason, I was very confident that I knew the specific detail of how the curtain was torn. And I kept thinking in my head, the temple curtain was torn from bottom to top. Now, if you look at Matthew 27:51, you'll realize very quickly that I was completely wrong. It sounds ridiculous, right? But for some reason, I was super confident that that is what happened. And someone in the group questioned me and said, "Hey, pastor, are you sure?" And I was like, "Hey man, of course, I'm a pastor." And to my surprise, I was completely wrong. How embarrassing and how foolish it was to think I knew all the answers because I was the pastor. Now, the key word to remember for today is humble. And that's exactly what I needed. I needed a piece of humble pie. Now, in today's chapter, we see Jesus teaching an important lesson of humility. In this new way of living, Jesus goes against the status quo of seeking high positions and bringing honor and glory to themselves by encouraging his disciples to be content with where they were and to not seek glory, but a position of humility instead. You see, biblical humility means being free from our arrogance and pride and exalting God above all else. It's not about what I do, it's about what God does. And Jesus makes a good point. Luke 14:11 says, "For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted." You see, if you try to lift yourself up, you will quickly be humbled. But if we humble ourselves, God says that he will exalt us, but not in this world, but in the heavenly world to come. So why does this matter? You see, because a life of humility ultimately means you'll be able to find true dependence on God and ultimately a deeper, more intimate connection with him. It's when we learn to set ourselves aside that we can see more and more of God in our life. And that's a really beautiful thing. Jesus not only taught this kind of humility, he lived this out. While he deserved the highest of places, he took the lowest of places and was ultimately granted the highest place in heaven. So let's learn to be humble.